Who are some people who do the most despicable crimes around? Let's find out. Starting with number 7, financial negligence. Cambodian influencer Wen Malika, famous for flaunting her opulent lifestyle online, was tossed in prison for 3.5 years for a phony taunting scheme. Malika's social media was a tapestry of luxury, showcasing stacks of cash and lavish cars, painting a picture of a lifestyle paid for at the expense of others. The Phnom Penh Municipal Court had initially handed down an 18-month sentence to Malika, along with a $6,500 compensation order. But the blows didn't stop there. An additional 2-year jail term and another hefty $300,000 compensation order followed suit. These penalties stemming from charges related to financial mismanagement. Malika's confession rocked the nation as she admitted to siphoning millions through a tontine scheme, a financial pool gone sour. Tontines are kind of an old investment strategy where a bunch of people pool their money into one investment, then divide the payouts. As each member of the group passes away, rather than pass their payout onto an heir, it's then divided amongst the surviving members, increasing those payouts until the last surviving member gets everything. You can see why this might be a bit problematic, though many were run legitimately. Fortunately, Malika wasn't doing anything shady other than embezzling. Her tontine was just a cover to get money, so it was more like a Ponzi. Investigations revealed her investment in dubious transactions, including cashless checks amounting to over $365,000. Once basking in the limelight, Malika's bankruptcy declaration shattered her facade of wealth. She adamantly denied any wrongdoing, because of course she did, insisting on her innocence and blaming financial mismanagement for her downfall. In a tearful social media video, Malika's husband, Matong Tin, defended their actions, blaming their financial woes on negligence rather than deceit, which is a really bad look for them, given his wife confessed to the whole thing. As legal proceedings unfolded, more details on Malika's fraudulent activities emerged, tarnishing her image further. The once revered internet sensation now faces the reality of a prison cell, her life of luxury replaced by a cot and a stainless steel toilet. If only someone had influenced her to be more honest. Number 6, honey trapping. In Daytona Beach, Florida, Chelsea Wright and Andrew Marks landed in cuffs after reportedly going after a 73-year-old man during a robbery. The victim stumbled into the hospital around 5 a.m. It all started innocently enough, a bar rendezvous between him and Wright to discuss their relationship. But what began as a potential romantic liaison took a dark turn when Wright suggested he follow her home, only to pick up Marks on the roadside en route. As they reached their supposed destination, Marks emerged from the shadows, wielding a metal object, acting like he's Jason Voorhees or something. He went after the victim and robbed him of his wallet. Both assailants fled the scene, leaving the elderly man to fend for himself, requiring urgent medical attention. Wright attempted to deflect blame during police questioning, spinning a tale of an elderly woman with Alzheimer's as the assailants. And we were a bit vague about the damage, but it was pretty severe. So detectives saw through the nonsense very quickly, uncovering incriminating text messages between Wright and Marks, revealing a meticulously planned robbery. Wright and Marks, former flames turned partners in crime, found themselves on the wrong side of the law. Wright and Marks faced a laundry list of charges. In the end, we can all agree that what Chelsea did wasn't right. See what we did? Because her last name is... anyway. Number 5, not for the kids. In the UK, the aptly named Claire Precious, who was a preschool administrator, made headlines for all the wrong reasons. She swiped £65,000 from the school's coffers over 5 years, splurging on takeouts, expensive perfumes, and even a brand new sofa from The Range, which is basically a home goods. And Claire didn't stop there. She'd hit up Amazon and Argos, which is kind of like a nicer Walmart, like it was going out of style, racking up 220 purchases on the school's dime. Claire's spending spree led to the demise of Bassett's Farm Preschool, leaving parents and colleagues scratching their heads in disbelief. Claire wasn't exactly subtle about her newfound wealth either, boosting her own salary by nearly £10,000 between 2018 and 2020, as well as upping her own standard of living. Suspicion grew among her coworkers that something sneaky was going on when they couldn't access accounts and noticed some random password changes. Eventually, the cops caught caught wind of Claire's shenanigans and nabbed her in January of 2023. It was a shock to everyone, especially Daniel Moore, the preschool chairman, who had kids attending the school. As the investigation unfolded, more damning evidence surfaced. A package of moisturizer arrived at Claire's doorstep the very day she got cuffed. So the cuffs might have been ugly, but at least her hands were moisturized, you know? Plus, a set of blinds and other goodies bought with stolen funds were chilling at her house like it was all good. In court, the judge showed a rare moment of mercy, sparing Claire jail time in exchange for a promise to pay back the money. She got slapped with a 2-year suspended sentence and some community service instead. Despite the chaos she caused, Claire's attorney painted a picture of remorse, pointing out her clean record and her apparent struggles with what she did. But for the folks at Bassett's farm, closure was inevitable, as the school was forced to shut its doors. So her remorse meant very little. Yet, from the ashes emerged a silver lining. The neighboring primary school stepped up, opening a nursery to save the day for the 50 little ones affected. Seriously, her name is Claire Precious, and she ran a preschool? That's like a guy named Crentist becoming a dentist. Number 4. The crime spree. In Minneapolis, Michelle Lee Coaster found herself in a courtroom facing the consequences of a burglary gone tragically wrong back in 2015. While she wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, she was still sentenced to 11 years in the slammer for aiding an offender in the tragic passing of Sarah Weirstad, a young mother caught in the home invasion. Coaster initially played coy with the cops, weaving a web of lies to cover her tracks. But eventually, the truth spilled out. She spilled the beans about her buddies planning a credit card heist that fateful night. Turns out, she wasn't just an innocent bystander. She had a history of reaping the rewards from their shady dealings. The gang, including Coaster's beau, Albert George McIntosh, broke into Weirstad's house. But they got more than they bargained for when Weirstad came home unexpectedly and she became a tragic victim of their crime spree. McIntosh, the alleged shooter, somehow managed to avoid charges due to insufficient evidence. But their crime spree didn't end with Weirstad's passing. They continued their crime spree, resulting in another tragic passing of Julio Mozo Coete in Minneapolis that same night. Fast forward to the trial, and the jury threw the book at McIntosh and Coaster, finding them guilty on 11 out of 12 charges. Apparently, the duo wasn't just out for a quick buck. They targeted the Hispanic community, preying on folks they thought wouldn't fight back. Coaster might not have been the mastermind, but she was definitely complicit. She chauffeured the crew around, making stops for robberies like it was just another day's work. McIntosh, on the other hand, was the ringleader, orchestrating the chaos that led to Mozo Coete's tragic demise. In the end, McIntosh was sentenced to over 38 years, and Coaster received 32 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution to the victims' families. Number 3. The double life. In Colorado Springs, Kevin Cipher, a former deputy sheriff, claimed he was battling cancer to milk cash out of loved ones. But instead of battling tumors, he was battling a bad case of greed. Cipher, the now ex-cop, got nabbed over his alleged scam. Turns out, he was also juggling 2 marriages, marrying a second wife while he was still married to the first. Apparently, Cipher was using the sympathy generated from a fake cancer diagnosis to receive donations, which he spent on jewelry, vacations, and other luxuries. He even bought an engagement ring for his second wife despite still being married to his first in California. Facing charges of theft, charitable fraud, and official misconduct, Cipher was fired in August of 2023, and the sheriff's office is still investigating the full extent of his crimes. An arrest affidavit details how he started all this shady business, exploiting colleagues for $20,300 over the course of a year. He claimed he was undergoing a messy divorce and couldn't afford basic needs, which was, of course, total BS. Cipher took a medical leave in March of 2023 for a procedure unrelated to any cancer. When he requested additional leave to recover, suspicions grew, leading staff to contact his doctor. The doctor revealed that Cipher hadn't been seen since a routine checkup and wasn't restricted from working. In April of 2023, Cipher's second wife, fellow Colorado cop Sarah Clay, reported him missing. Surveillance footage showed Cipher leaving with trash bags, and investigators found that Cipher left his wallet and signed his car's title over to Clay's daughter before vanishing. Before his disappearance, Cipher had manipulated colleagues, including having one participate in a fake crisis negotiation call to support his cancer claim. This led to an internal affairs investigation. In the midst of his scams, Cypher continued sending his paycheck to a joint account with his first wife, Jody. Colleagues really believed that Cypher was going through a messy divorce. They eventually discovered he was still married to Jody, who planned to search for him. Cypher's fraud funded a lavish lifestyle, including trips to Florida, dinners, and purchases from Amazon and Home Depot. His second wife, believing his cancer story, sought to annul their marriage once the truth emerged. Cypher was found a few days later staying in a hotel where he was arrested. As of this video, the case is still ongoing. The weird thing about all of this is, why? Sure, he was scamming money from people, but it doesn't seem like he even had a plan or a goal. He just got a bunch of money, then ditched both wives and signed over his car to his second wife's daughter and just went to stay in a hotel? You know the police burst in the door and asked him what the hell he's doing, and he's like,
"Do I really look like a guy with a plan?"
Number 2, Facebook Marketplace warnings. In the UK, Facebook has become a hotspot for buying and selling stuff, but scammers are lurking around trying to pull one over on unsuspecting folks. Lucy True and Chris Frost, a young couple juggling the joys and expenses of new parenthood, hoping to make a quick buck, they decided to sell Chris's top-of-the-line gaming laptop on Facebook Marketplace. They found a potential buyer through the site, and after checking his profile and feeling good about it, welcomed him into their home. He seemed like a decent guy, even chatting about parenting and bonding with their 3-month-old daughter, Elodie. Everything seemed legit when they agreed on a price of £700, and the buyer showed them what appeared to be his banking app, all official-like. Chris entered his bank details, but when the money didn't show up after 15 minutes, they got a bit nervous. As night fell and still no cash, they tried reaching out to the buyer, but their calls were blocked, and his Facebook profile vanished into thin air. They got scammed. Feeling violated and unsafe in their own home, they reported the incident to the bank, the cops, and Facebook, but got nowhere. The police basically shrugged it off, saying they willingly handed over the goods, unfortunately. Lucy and Chris aren't alone. Scams on Facebook Marketplace are only rising. Action Fraud advises folks to watch out for shady tactics like rushing decisions, emotional manipulation, and faux trust building. Treat online deals just like how you would with anyone in real life. Don't trust strangers right off the bat. Why that's advice people need to hear, we don't know, but it is. It's called stranger danger, and it's usually taught to 5-year-olds. Meta, the company behind Facebook, says they're working to stop the scammers, but we all know what that means, right? If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here to find out how this guy skipped out on his bills repeatedly. Number 1, Sugar Daddy Guide. Meet Mei Watanabe, a girl from Nagoya, Japan, got in some trouble for running a sophisticated dating scam. Going by the alias Sugar Baby Riri, Mei swindled 3 unsuspecting men out of a whopping $1.3 million through a romance scam. And she didn't stop there. She even authored a manual teaching others how to do the same. Mei's spending spree included lavishing gifts on a male host in Tokyo's Kabukicho nightlife area, akin to New York City's Times Square, a host being something similar to club promoter or a nightlife personality who brings in customers to clubs and entertainment venues. Mei aimed to boost his sales at the club, possibly to strengthen her relationship with him. But the Nagoya District Court didn't take kindly to her selfish motives, slapping her with a 9-year prison sentence and an $82,000 fine. During her trial, Mei confessed, admitting she felt justified in committing fraud to support her beloved host. Yet, beneath her facade of remorse, Mei epitomized the classic swindler, preying on older men with fictitious sob stories to line her pockets. But Mei's scheme didn't end there. She branched out, selling a playbook for aspiring scammers, titled A Reference Book for Sugar Babies. This manual, coupled with her charm, led to a staggering $1.6 million in cash from her victims. She even faced charges for tax evasion, trying to conceal over $400,000 in income. Mei's downfall didn't come until her arrest, following the sale of her scamming guides on social media. With titles like Textbook for Sugar Babies, The Right Profile, and Magical Words to Make Men Pay, she lured in thousands of buyers, selling over 2,000 copies before authorities finally intervened. Mei was obviously the person to be writing this type of manual too. Reports surfaced of her fleecing a 50-year-old man of $182,500 by spinning tales of debt and desperation. And just when you thought she had hit her peak, accusations emerged from another victim, claiming he had been duped out of a staggering $780,000. what are some of the weirdest crimes criminals will come up with? Let's find out, starting with number 6, Mannequin 3, going to jail. A guy from Poland had the bright idea of pretending to be a mannequin just to rob a store. But his mannequin act was caught on CCTV, and this time, 80s heartthrob William Ragsdale wasn't around to save him. The scam was simple, even if a bit tedious. The man came into the store, found a great spot to stand, and then pretended he was a mannequin for hours. He was able to do this because the store was large and because his motionless act wasn't bad. After the staff of the store had closed down the store with him in it, and the mannequin magically came to life and sprang into action, just like the hit 80s film series. He came with his bag and then burgled the jewelry store for all it was worth. He was eventually caught and held for 3 months. The owner of the store said that the man wasn't a first-time thief. He was known in the area as a frequent robber, and there was one documented case of him robbing another nearby store. In that case, he'd found his way into another store after grabbing a meal at a nearby bar. He made sure he waited until the store closed before he burgled it. Once he was in that store, he grabbed all the designer clothes he could find. After he was done, he stopped again at another bar to grab a meal. But a security guard caught up to him before calling the police. So what's the fate of our winner of the stealing mannequin challenge? Well, he's currently being held by the police and faces at least 10 years of jail if convicted of burglary and theft. What exactly was his exit plan? To just smash out of the front and alert the police? And how did no one notice that there's suddenly a mannequin that wasn't there before? Didn't the person in charge of that department take a look at it all during the entire shift? If we did it, we'd be a mannequin with sunglasses so we could blink. Number 5, hamster hotels. Ryan Sentinel State released live hamsters in his hotel room in a ridiculous ploy to get a free stay. And Ryan didn't just do this at one hotel location. He repeated the same scam at multiple locations and caused thousands of dollars worth of property loss for the hotels. The scam was simple. Ryan would go into the hotels with hamsters and then let them loose in the room. Afterwards, he would point out rodent droppings to the staff and demand a refund. The hotels then had to spend thousands of dollars to get rid of the hamsters that Ryan had introduced. But it was the cutest infestation anyone had ever seen. This scam worked in at least 2 hotels where he tried it. However, his luck eventually ran out. The police soon found out about his tricks and arrested him. Once he was arrested, another hotel manager spoke up about Ryan pulling the same scam at their hotel. According to the manager, it costs $159 per night to stay at the hotel, and Ryan had scammed them out of 2 nights' stay. The police aren't quite sure, but they believe that Ryan must have pulled the same scam at more hotels in the area. Right now, he faces 2 charges of theft by deception and 3 counts of criminal mischief. But what we want to know is, did anyone get to pick up and pet the hamsters? Or give them stuff to put in their cheeks? Like, if you're in a hotel room and you see droppings, you're going to be super pissed, right? But then it's like this cute little hamster scurrying by and maybe you get to pet it. Number 4, win my home. Loretta Buchanan thought she'd won a £2 million dream house in a raffle draw, but she was wrong. She only won £5,000, and now she's calling the entire raffle a scam because she wasn't given a house. The raffle draw in question was something called the Win My Home raffle. The point of the raffle was to get people to buy tickets and then purchase a particular mansion with the bought tickets. The mansion would then be given to the winner of the lottery. Unfortunately, that's not quite how it went down. Loretta, who was a newly married school teacher, hadn't wanted to enter the draw, but she entered it at the last minute and spent £10 buying 10 tickets during the final weekend of the raffle. She was announced as the winner, and she thought it meant she would get her home. The owner of the house that was supposed to go to Loretta was this guy named Elliot Andrew. It turned out that Andrew was dating the director of the raffle, Yevgenia Levitska, and so he had a connection to the firm behind the whole scheme. He'd been dating Levitska for at least 5 years, and the duo had gone on a bunch of expensive vacations, which, like like, you can see how that's looking a little shady. The firm organizing the lottery was registered at Andrew's home before its address was changed a few months later. The plan was that the draw would raise the money to buy Andrew's home, and Andrew would then give the home to the winner of the draw. But that would only happen if enough tickets were bought. Sadly, they weren't. The firm had a target of selling £2.5 million of tickets to buy the £2 million home, but that target wasn't reached. Since it wasn't reached, there was no home to hand over to Loretta. In a show of goodwill, Andrew drove over to Loretta's house himself to break the disappointing news. He explained that she didn't win, but said he would give a consolation prize of £5,000. He reasoned that would more than make up for the £10 she spent on the tickets for the raffle, and apparently the raffle had lost money, so the money, the £5,000, actually came from personal pocketbooks. But Loretta didn't quite agree with that logic. Instead, she complained about several things. First, she said that the firm didn't inform her about her win properly. She said that Andrew just drove over to her home and just gave her a bottle of Prosecco when she could have at least gotten champagne, which honestly sounds like she's just mad. Andrew explained that the conditions of getting the home were stated in the lottery's terms and conditions, and Loretta said she wasn't aware of the terms. In any case, she accepted the money Andrew gave her, but she later gave an interview to a local newspaper saying she felt that the lottery was a scam. In the interview, she said that the competition was a scandal and that she was looking into whether she had legal recourse. Of course, this annoyed Andrew and the firm, who then threatened to claw back the £5,000 Loretta had been given. In a separate interview, Andrew outlined his version of things and said his only connection to the draw was that his house was the prospective prize if everything went well. He also said that the firm didn't defraud Loretta, as it was clearly stated that she would only get the house if the lottery raised enough money. So, who do you think was in the wrong here? Were the organizers of the lottery fraudulent, or did they just stick to their policy? Was Loretta just too busy to read the rules of the competition? Or was there some shady business going on since the firm did raise £2 million, but still claimed they lost money? While we think it's a good thing that Loretta got even £5,000 out of the deal, we can understand how that could feel a little scammy. She was more than reimbursed for the money she spent on the ticket, given that the lottery didn't reach its money-raising goal, so Loretta did come out ahead. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Number 3. Hand insurance. Miguel Blasquez Palacios did the unthinkable when he hacked off his hand in a bid to defraud an insurance firm. Miguel was dealing with a lot of debts, so he decided that the smart thing to do was to stage a car accident that would remove the hand. To do this, he detached his hand and disposed of it, placed a tourniquet around the limb, and then drove his car off the road. Then he lit the car on fire and called emergency services. The first sign that something was wrong was when a policeman arrived at the scene and met Miguel enjoying a smoke. Miguel told the police that he had swerved to avoid an animal on the road before crashing. He also said that a metal bar had smashed through the windscreen and sliced his hand off. Before the accident, Miguel had taken out 11 different insurance policies with 8 different firms. If his scam had worked out, he would have earned close to $3 million in insurance payouts. Unfortunately, Miguel wasn't the best storyteller. His insurers became suspicious of his story when they learned that he'd taken out so many policies shortly before his accident and that he had a mountain of debt. They sent private investigators after him, and the investigators revealed that the cut his arm had suffered was too clean to have been done by an accident. By then, Miguel had already gotten £300,000 of his total payout. He was arrested by the police and made to repay the firms he'd already collected insurance payouts from. He was also jailed for 3 years for his troubles. So he didn't get any insurance money, got 3 years in jail, and he also lost his right hand. Now that's just the worst case scenario for his scam. We almost feel bad for this guy. Almost. Number 2. Wait, defense attorneys lie? John Scarpa has been accused of bribing a witness to get his client off the hook. John Scarpa was meant to defend his client, a man named Reginald Ross, a member of the LA-based Crips. Ross was on trial for the passing of 2 men. One was of Raymond Hertz, a road crew flagman who Ross said had delayed him at a stop. After the delay, Ross tracked Hertz for a week before ending his life right in his car. This guy is a real sweetheart. The second man was John Williams, whose life was ended the same way. Ross mistook John as the man he was after, his original target, John's brother, Scott Williams. Ross hoped that Scott's funeral would draw out yet another man who owed him money for illegal substances, and then he planned to take that guy out at the funeral too. It sounds like a story straight out of The Wire, right? The prosecution had a lot of evidence against Ross and had 2 primary witnesses willing to implicate him. One of them was Louis Cherry, Ross's friend. Cherry had earlier told the police that he had helped Ross plan Williams' passing. Scarpa's plan to get Ross off off the hook was to place the blame squarely on Cherry. So he had an ex-con, who was also a private investigator, get in touch with Cherry and bribed him to take the fall. The ex-con private investigator, a man named Charles Gallman, told Cherry that he would get a lot of street cred in the big house for his handling of Williams and Hertz. So Cherry goes for it, gets on the stand, and recants his testimony about helping Ross be a horrible human. Cherry insisted that he was the lone bad guy in the assassination. However, even that didn't help Ross get off the hook. The prosecution had one other primary witness whom Ross had confided in and had phone records that provided that Ross had indeed committed the crimes. In the end, he was sentenced to 74 years in jail. Afterwards, officials discovered what Scarpa and Gallman had done. They were soon charged with violating the Federal Travel Act for allegedly using cell phones in the bribery scheme, which is so dumb because Scarpa was getting paid anyway. Why mess with that? If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here to find out about how this weird church scams their members. Number 1. Heart-stopping meals. A man only known to the internet as Aiden J faked a lot of heart attacks for a lot of free food. His scam was simple. When he was done with his meal or had eaten his fill, he would clutch his heart, fall to the floor, and start shaking in fake agony. Of course, this would alarm the restaurant staff, who would then be pressured into foregoing the bill for the meal. Aiden did this scam several times at different restaurants in the area, and it always worked. Who's going to charge someone that just had a heart attack? Since Aiden always pretended to be a Russian tourist who didn't speak the language and always wore designer clothes, people didn't readily catch on to his scam. Aiden had been caught and recognized many times for his little play, but was never really detained since the amounts he was stealing were so low. Most times they came up to around 15 to 70 euro, so it was easy for the restaurants to write it off. However, Aiden was caught when he tried the same trick in the restaurant twice. The staff instantly realized that he was faking it and handed him over to the police. He was then fined and jailed for 42 days. It's a lot easier to get a free meal just by saying you found a hair in it, right? Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather do. Go to jail for 6 months or give up social media for